Welcome. Before we head over to the $128,000 dividend stock portfolio, ladies and gentlemen, I got a knowledge bomb. And because you guys are like family to me, I feel it would be rude not to share this information with you. So I'm going to tell you two stories today. One of my friend that bought a boat and why I think it's a terrible idea. And then I'm going to talk to you about one of my managers that I used to work with that was spending $400 a month on Uber and whether the debate is that even worth doing or should you just buy a car? So I look so forward to breaking this down for you. So let's just jump right into this. Welcome back, my passive income investors alike. In this video, before we head over and see how the stock portfolio is doing, which might I say it's pushing into all-time highs as per usual. Now, obviously, that is pretty insanely lucky, and I'm going to try and keep my ego out of the numbers as much as possible. But more importantly today, guys, I want to share with you a couple stories about the generation of renting, because literally in the last, I'm going to say 10 or 20 years, you've been actually able to rent almost anything at ridiculously cheap prices. You can rent anything you can possibly think of. Any experience, you can rent any vehicle, motor vehicle, dirt bike, but whatever, doesn't matter. You can rent everything, guys. You can rent your beds, you can rent things short-term, long-term, any equipment you would need for a job. It's crazy how in the last 20 years, everything has refined itself down to this weird idea of don't own it, rent it. And I'm going to show you why you're going to be able to get rich and retire super early by renting over owning anything. Now that is a bold statement, and I'm going to try and explain this to you with two stories. And we're going to start with the one of my friend who recently bought a boat. So presume we go out and we buy a new, maybe used boat for about $20,000. These are all hypothetical numbers, by the way. These aren't the actual numbers, as I don't know what anyone would actually pay for a boat. I don't really care what he bought the boat for because I don't think the numbers change that much. But let's presume that boat's going to require a whole bunch of maintenance. We're talking gas. We're talking winter storage. I live in Canada, guys. You can only boat 2 or 3 months out of the year. So you're going to be paying winter storage fees. You're going to be paying licenses for that boat. And heck, you know you want some amenities, so you're going to be buying yourself some tube, some skis. How much extra could that cost? Well, let's just throw over, the lifetime of the boat. Say you're going to have it for 5 or 10 years before you get bored of it and sell it. Perhaps, let's say that's going to cost you about $5,000, guys. So if we add an extra $5,000 on, and this is all hypothetical again, guys, we're looking at about a $25,000, $30,000 boat. So with that $25,000, ladies and gentlemen, let me show you how instead of buying a boat with $25,000, you could literally rent a yacht, a boat, a speedboat, anything you wanted, keep the $25,000 and have just as good of a time. And this is one of the big fundamentals that's going to make you like uber rich on retirement versus being broke. Now, first of all, you also have to include all of the stress of having to get a trailer and load this boat up and, transport it around. There's so much that comes into play. But let's presume you take my model of investing. Now, in my stock portfolio, I'm able to get a rate of return of about 15 or 16%. The average market rate of return is about 8%. So just to keep things on somewhat of a reasonable scale, because years are different year over year, let's presume you're going to make a 10% return. So with a $25,000 boat, on average, if you were getting 10%, ladies and gentlemen, on every $10,000. So let's presume that would be $2,500. Ladies and gentlemen, you'd be making 10% off $25,000, bringing in a total of $2,500 So with that $2,500 a year, if we were to go online and see what a speedboat would cost to rent, well, they can literally cost anywhere from $50 an hour to all the way up till we could be renting yachts on Airbnbs for the evening for somewhere around maybe a couple $100 a night. So let's just pick a fair, even number here because this is going to really gauge on what you're experiencing the luxury or the sportiness of the vehicle you're going to be renting for your leisureness with your fam jamming. So let's just take a quick mid number. Let's say you want luxury because you're still going to have lunch. You're still going to be paying for other things. You're going to be renting this boat probably for a few hours. So let's presume you're going to be spending about $200 that day. If we can presume you're spending $200, that's going to allow you to rent up to 12.5 rentals. So you're going to be able to do about 12 and a half rentals, but we'll just say 12 to keep it fair. Now in Canada here, let's presume, well, you're only going to be allowed to really enjoy boating probably 2 months out of the year. Because our weather fluctuates so much and we're cold the majority of the year, we only have really good 2 summer months. So if we were to divide 12 by 2, well, we're looking at 6 times a month. And that's once to twice a week. Ladies and gentlemen, you could just rent a boat and then you don't have to deal with any of the BS. You don't have to deal with storage. You don't have to deal with anything after the fact. This is what blows my mind about renting things because you can keep the $20,000. So you can have the same experience, probably the same amount of experiences by the looks at it. Because if we can only spend that $200, ladies and gentlemen, 6 times a month, that's 1 to 2 times a week going out on a boat, but you don't have to deal with any of the BS in between. You just go out, have a good time, come back, go back home. There's no storage fees, there's no headaches, there's no nothing. So this is one example. Now I want to talk to you about another example, and this was one of my friends who was a manager at a restaurant, and she got in a bit of an argument with some people, and she was telling me about this, and she was saying that her friends thought it wasn't a good idea because she was spending $400 a month on Uber to get to work and just to go out and have fun. Now that sounds incredibly expensive, but from a car owner and somebody that drives a lot, my average car price over the last couple of years has been about $500 a month. And I own my car, and it's absolutely mind-boggling, ladies and gentlemen, that I could own my car and it could still cost me this much. That is already giving up $1 million over a 20 or 30 year period if I was able to just invest the $500. But we're talking about her here and her $400 a month, and why I think she's better off using the Uber than owning a car. She's probably not driving as much as me, but she isn't having the stress. Again, the same thing with the boat, guys, because if you own a car, just like me, things happen. Now I have to borrow a vehicle to go to work this weekend. Well, my car isn't going to be able to get into the shop until Monday, and it's having all these electrical problems. It's stressful, and it's annoying to the people around me, including myself. So she, on the other hand, she has the luxury of somebody picking her up. She has the luxury of never coming home and having to worry about her vehicle being locked or things being stolen. Like, the amount of stress that could take off you for only $400 a month, I think it might be well worth it. And honestly, if you live in the city or you have the option of Uber, I mean, you could also take a bus, you could take a train. It would get substantially cheaper. You're not dealing with insurance every month. You're going to be buying a new car like most people do, though I'd recommend a cheap used one like I'd buy for, $5,000 or $10,000 at the most. But presume you're one of the crazy people that goes out and spends $50,000 on a vehicle. Well, you just run the same exact math, guys. So let's take a look. If you're doing 10% on $50,000, well, you're going to be bringing in about $5,000 a year, right? Now, in the same notion, guys, it's crazy how this formula works on the other end too, because if you're not spending $50,000 on a vehicle with no stress or anything, invested at 10%, obviously you'd have to have $50,000 in the first place, but bringing in that $5,000, guys, because it's the same formula here, that $5,000 divided over 12 months, well, if you're only spending $400 a month, do the math. 10 months out of the year, you're spending $4,000. Pop on an extra $400 for the last 2 months. For doing simple child math here, we're talking about $4,800 for her to basically rent the vehicle without owning it, and she saves $200 instead of buying a $40,000 or $50,000 vehicle. So that math is absolutely staggering when you apply this to any set of circumstances, guys. It's a pretty easy formula, and it's something that I recommend you doing before you go out and you just buy frivolous stuff, because again, how often are you using it? And sometimes you're better off investing it than actually purchasing whatever the product is. So I'd love to know what you guys think about this conversation in the description box below. And in light of that, let's head over into the formula that makes all of this possible, which is my dividend stock portfolio, and take a look on how we finished this Friday. Oh, and if you're wondering about the monkey, ladies and gentlemen, well, this is Francisco, Portuguese monkey with Russian accent. He has basically picked a variety of stocks that I'm currently competing with, and we're going to update you every single Friday going forward on whether the monkey that threw darts can outperform my personal stock picks. I just wanted to throw that in there. I need to get him to stay up here. He's going to become a new prop in this show. So slap a like for Francisco, Portuguese monkey with Russian accent. Recently opened up a margin practice account, which I just mentioned. And in this account, right now is not really worth updating it on just because I only started this it was 2 or 3 days ago. But we're currently up 0.52%. And every Friday, I will compare this against my regular holdings. But now is not a good time to gauge because we only just got into it. But we're seeing a little bit of green, but that also has to do with the powerhouse the markets have been lately. And let's take a look at the powerhouse accounts of mine. Starting with the newest account that I've been funding aggressively this year is my RRSP, which is saving me thousands on taxes and has been on an utter tear lately, up 6.57%. And when I was looking at this, I was always saying to myself, yo, this is exactly how I want every portfolio and everything that I do from here on in to be structured. I want stability, I want long-term, and I want growth. And I get that perfectly with these 3 stocks. I'm really happy just looking at this portfolio because we have VFV, which represents the Vanguard 500, the S&P 500 stocks, and it's just in Canadian dollars. And then we have J&J, which is an S&P top 10, and it's healthcare, one of the most stable companies. On top of that, we have a good dividend payer, by the way, increases dividends, dividend king. We're also talking Tesla, which is one of my favorite companies of all time. And we're nicely seeing a healthy amount of green on all of them. Obviously, J&J is going to be a little slower growth than maybe the index because it's been underperforming. But lately, we've been on a tear, guys. I've only recently purchased these, so to see a 6.5% return already, I know is all speculative and it's short term, but it's just nice to see that these picks are doing okay considering they're brand new to my portfolio. Now, taking a look at the managed account, where we're going to be moving a lot of money around here very shortly. We got MO sitting flat around 50 bucks a share still, and this one's going to be going into my tax-free savings account the 1st of December, ladies and gentlemen, or 1st of January, sorry, 2020, because we're going to leverage this sucker down, and we're allowed to contribute. They finally issued, the government has said we can contribute $6,000 again in 2020 to our TFSA. So I'm going to pay the $6,000 on it, basically for this year, and then next year it's just going to make me money in perpetuity for the rest of my life. And hopefully we're going to continue seeing these nice compounded returns, as this entire TFSA is up 23 bloody percent. Ladies and gentlemen, quite an incredible thing to see, with the good and the bad. The only thing new in here is I got some more dividends recently. We got a few dividends that came in. We're going to be getting a few more before the end of the month, which will be really nice. And I've added some GEO group, which I'm really glad I added to, because I really want to get a little bit more. I might use some of that $6,000 at the beginning of the year to buy some more GEO. I'm obviously going to leverage back into MO and BTI, but still, man, GEO, I think she's discounted. Anyways, just a quick portfolio update, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to go over the dividends today. This has been a rather long video, but I would love to know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm going to be around for the rest of this Friday evening, and I'd love to have a conversation. So stay cool, stay awesome. I look forward to chatting to you real soon.